State of the Union address, it's a circus, and I think everybody in the country knows it. The president is going to be talking about increasing the minimum wage because he cares so much. Really, if you really care so much, why don't you just increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour and then tie it to inflation? Could we just get somebody honest in Washington, D.C.? If you really believe that the minimum wage is the way to fix things, and it doesn't hurt the economy, all you have to do is sign through executive order a new minimum wage that is $15, $20, $25 an hour and then slave it to inflation. But they won't do that. You know why they won't do that? Because then you no longer need them. They can no longer trot that out as a very popular solution to all of our woes and our problems. And if you know anything at all about the minimum wage and how it works, you know that it is a job killer. They are now going to take and kill even more jobs. Now, the reason why the president can do this is because through executive order, he's going to challenge Congress tonight and say, Congress, here's what you need to do. You need to raise the minimum wage for all working Americans. In fact, I'm going to do it through executive order. If you won't act, I will. And I'm going to raise the minimum wage for all federal contracts. So once again, we scoop everybody up into, let's live in this utopian world of federal contracts, of federal money, of giveaways. It will kill the private sector. Saul Alinsky said there are 8 levels of control that have to be obtained before you could have the perfect socialized state. What are the 8 Saul Alinsky steps? Well, first of all, you have to control healthcare. Control healthcare and you control the people. Second, poverty. You have to increase the poverty level as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control and won't fight back if you're providing everything for them to live. Debt. Increase the debt to an unsustainable level. That way you're able to increase taxes and it produces more poverty. Gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. Welfare. Control every aspect of people's lives. Food, housing, and income. Education. Take control of what people read and listen to. Take control of what children learn in school. 7. Religion. Remove the belief of God from the government and from schools. And 8, class warfare. Divide the people into the wealthy and the poor. It causes more discontent and it'll be easier to tax the wealthy with the support of the poor. That's Saul Alinsky's plan. Does it sound like we're doing any of these things? Tonight you will hear a president that will act as though he is the most righteous man on the planet. He is not going to tell you the truth, and I don't believe the Republicans will tell you the truth either. The truth is, we are a nation on the verge of moral, social, and economic collapse. And if you don't believe that, later on in the program, we're going to talk a little bit about what the Grammys did. Everybody focused on what the Grammys did with the gay marriage thing. Did anybody notice Katy Perry's performance? Did anybody really look at Katy Perry's performance? You look at Katy Perry's performance and you start to see things that are extraordinarily disturbing. People walked out. But it is so normal now to see literal Satan worship, to see unspeakable things on television in performances and award show that the most of America just yawned. It wasn't the big topic of conversation all across the country yesterday. That's fascinating to me. Have you seen what they're saying now about Scarlett Johansson? Scarlett Johansson is doing SodaStream. She's decided to be the spokesperson for SodaStream. SodaStream is an Israeli company, but it provides jobs for the Palestinians as well. They have a stupid mosque in their place of business. So because if you are Muslim, you have to have, your 5 times for prayer. And so they've built a mini mosque. The Israelis built a mini mosque inside their place of business at SodaStream. And yet somehow or another, they're racist.
They pay their employees 4 or 5 times what they could make anywhere else.
Yeah.
In the
somehow
Palestinian territories.
They're racist. Now, so here's Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson is being branded as I can't even say. There's no word to even describe it. It's as bad as the C word and indescribable. And that's what now is going around the world. That's who she is, because she says, I believe in the Palestinians and I believe in the Israelis. This is a good product. B, it's a good company. C, have you seen how they treat the Palestinians? They believe in everybody working together. So do I. But she has a different opinion. We're going down the road now of destroying anybody who disagrees. Did you hear the latest from, remember the guy we told you about yesterday? The guy we told you about yesterday that was Tom Perkins, pressured by Abe Foxman, of course. Abe Foxman pressures this guy in San Francisco. And he is trying desperately to get somebody to listen to his message. Here's a guy who says, listen, I understand this is not going to be a popular thing, but a society needs to hear it. And here's what they need to hear. We're traveling down the same road as Nazi Germany. We have socialism. We have anti-Semitism. And more importantly, that's what they had in Germany. We have the 1% that are despised here in America. In Germany, that 1% that was blamed for everything was the Jews. Blame the Jews, the Jewish bankers. Well, I got news for you. Now, this is me. I've got news for you. Have you seen the rise of... I've never seen Jewish hatred like this in my lifetime. I've never seen such willingness to say Jews are evil and they're despicable, and I've never seen this in my lifetime. That always happens when you have a rise in socialism and Marxism. Always, every time, without exception, every time, and it leads to the same kind of hatred. And every time you have a rise in socialism, you have a rise in the hatred of entrepreneurs and bankers and businessmen. Every single time. And every time that happens, you then have the conspiracy theorists who always say the banks are controlled by all the Jews, so go get the Jews. Now, this guy, Tom Perkins, he comes out and he says, no, I want you to know. What we're seeing now is this rise of hatred of the 1%. And in America, it's not necessarily the Jews, it's the wealthy. And you cannot have a society that is built on hating the wealthy. You are dividing us. And you're going to have a Kristallnacht. And in 1930, that was the night of broken glass. It happened, I think, in 33, where they just went out and the mobs went out. And they were not regular Germans. These were highly coordinated with the Nazi Party. They went in and they broke all of the glass of every store owner that was Jewish. They burned them down. They said, you don't have a right to be here anymore. You're the ones causing all of the problems, all of the misery. And that was the beginning of the end for the Jews in Germany. And anybody who went out and tried to stand with them, i.e. Bonhoeffer's mother or his grandmother, I believe, went out and went shopping in all of those stores the very next day. Anybody who did that, you were a pariah. You were a Jew lover. Well, let me tell you something. Tom Perkins is absolutely right. Tom Perkins said that we are Germany 1930, except we're not talking about the Jews. We're talking about the wealthiest 1%. Look how they're being demonized. Look at what's happening to us now. Well, Abe Foxman gets on the phone and, I think through coercion, gets him to apologize for, I guess, making light of Kristallnacht. I guess if you can't use Kristallnacht or the Holocaust or the seeds of the Holocaust to point things out and say, hey, we're traveling down a dangerous road. Has anybody noticed the similarities between these two? If you can never use it, well, then the Holocaust is worthless. Remembering the Holocaust is worthless. And you are spitting on the graves of everybody who died there. If you can't look and compare and say, wait a minute, what caused that? What were the seeds? What were the early warning signs? Are there any of those signs in our society today? If you can't say that, then surely the millions that died in the ovens of Auschwitz have died in vain. Tom Perkins, being pressured, recants But then he goes, because he is so desperate to get anybody to hear his message, because his message is true. Then he goes on television and he says this. Some are saying that he is doubling down. Listen to Tom Perkins.
Can't play it right now because of the technical difficulty with the...
Oh, dear God.
Yeah. So we'll have to...
Do you have the transcript?
We're working on that. But what he said, I'm just trying to get someone to listen to the actual message I'm trying to portray, and that is that I watched what happened in Seattle with the Occupy people breaking the windows, going down the street of the Bank America buildings, going down the street and smashing out every window in every luxury car, and the police standing by, looking on and doing nothing. I got killed for saying it by everybody for bringing it up, including his own firm. But can somebody at least listen to the message that these are some early warning signs? And he's just, you can see his frustration. And they won't. No one will. No one will. And Mediaite calls that doubling down on his statement. He really didn't. He apologized profusely for bringing up the word Kristallnacht. And he apologized.
Kristallnacht is the night of broken glass. If you cannot compare a night of broken glass to a day of broken glass, what the hell is it for? Why do we remember it?
Yeah,
Why do we remember it?
I agree.
Seriously, I want to know from Abe Foxman. Get your ass on this program and please explain, what is the point of remembering if it isn't to make sure it never happens again, Abe? Tell me, sir. Please tell me. If it's not to say, look at, these are the ways that it happens. These are the signs. So we guard against it. Doesn't mean that everything turns into the Holocaust. Thank God nothing turns into the Holocaust again. If God is on our side and we are vigilant, it won't. But if we can't say, these were the same things that happened at that time, it doesn't mean that it turns into the Nazis. It doesn't mean. But when you start to see the seeds, you have to pull them up by the roots. And what difference does it make? Why pull it up from the roots? If I can't say, look, isn't this exactly what they were doing in Nazi Germany? It doesn't mean the people are Nazis. What it means is, isn't this the same tactic they used? Aren't these the same things?
Well, I mean, and what Perkins is saying and what you're saying, I think, is that vilification of a group is a bad idea. And I don't know how that's a difficult thing to stand by.
Down the road, he's not saying that we're going to have the Holocaust today.
You can't say
down
that.
You
cannot predict those things.
Yeah, you don't know.
It is human. It is. Man can turn from any point, but it makes it more likely to happen if you can't warn and say, "Look, these are the same seeds, and here's what happened in that society."
Yeah, and again, this is from a guy who voted for Jerry Brown. This is
a guy who
not
loves,
a conservative.
No, this is a guy who loves Al Gore.
Yeah, and Barack Obama, he loves the president.
He is not calling people Nazis. Stop with the Nazi stuff.
I mean, and this is the same thing that it's so interesting because you have this vilification of groups. Bad idea. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes.
And then you go back to when you go back to when Republicans were in power, we had constant warnings from the media that Arabs were going to be rounded up and killed. And no one ever batted an eye at it, even though there was nothing to at all make anyone believe that it was actually occurring in this country. It's this idea that you should always, and it's always good to warn. It's always good to make sure you're not targeting a group of people not based on the content of their character, but the color of their skin or some identifying characteristic.
But not at the
ADL.
Good idea. At the ADL, their goal seems to be that no one ever brings it up ever again.
Except if it can be used as a tool for something they agree with.
Yeah.
It is a moment of history. I'm sorry, but that history does not belong just to the Jews. It belongs to all mankind. It is a lesson for all mankind. If it remains just a Jewish lesson, if it remains something like it will do no good. It must be a lesson for all mankind. It must be a lesson for all fascists, all socialists, all communists, all Republicans, all Democrats, all Christians, all Jews, all people, all colors, all faith. Because no matter who you're rounding up, I mean, when I was talking about the guy, the hetero-fascist in Russia, yeah, he's a fascist. I want to throw them into the ovens. That sounds like fascism to me. Now, can we quote the Holocaust? Can we say, yes, he was referring to the Holocaust, the ovens of Auschwitz? Can we say that? Is that okay? Can we say, you better pull that seed up? That had nothing to do with Jewish people. It's not about Jewish people, and it's not about Nazis. It's about one group of people saying, you will live my way, and then dividing people. Listen, I got a letter from guy Bert. He wrote, Glenn, I didn't vote for divisive class warfare. I deliver office supplies for a living. I don't make very much money. My wife and I are poor financially. Getting home safely, giving her a kiss at the end of the day is all the wealth I need. I don't envy anybody. I have what I need. Why can't the government represent people like me? The Democrats and their rhino enablers do not represent me. Do not go in for divisive behavior. Listen to the truth. Learn from history.